So in conclusion here, this guy is actually advocating that the Second Amendment is completely tied to an insurrectionist theory of a Second Amendment, which then is tied to an insurrectionist movement. But at the same time, if we were to need to overthrow a tyrannical population, it's okay because we can do that because we have the arms. But we can't do it within the Constitution because the Constitution prohibits any type of insurrection or rebellion. The circular logic here makes zero sense. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. Alright guys, on this episode of the Bullet Points, we have got to dive into an opinion piece from the New York Times written by a Democratic sitting member of Congress, Jamie Raskin. Now, this guy is obviously going to be anti-2A because it's published in the New York Times and he's from Maryland. Whoa, some of the most strict gun laws in the nation. However, one of the most important pieces about our gun rights and moving our gun rights forward for the next generation is we have to be able to not only know our own positions, we have to be able to refute the attacks that are coming our way. And this article is no different. This is an opinion piece all based around the fact that the Second Amendment has no basis in standing up for our rights. It's actually against the Constitution to do it, even though it guarantees it. But then at the very end, we have to do it anyway if we need to. It's a very convoluted article, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Everything is linked in the description box below. I cannot wait to get this in front of you guys and read those comments because this is going to be good. I'm going to say a quick word from our sponsor, Established Titles, and then we're going to dive into this, and I cannot wait to hear the responses on this one. You guys heard of the castle doctrine? Well, with this sponsor, we're going to take it to the next level. And if you are defending your castle with something more traditional that looks like this, or maybe something a little more modern that looks like this, Established Titles gives you the ability to call yourself Lord or Lady while defending your castle. Now, the title packs give you 1 square foot of established land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest like you see right here. You may all refer to me now as Lord Braden. Thank you in advance. Your certificate features a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of your land. And if you're one of the first 200 to use the link in the description box below, we can create our own little LOA kingdom near my personal plot. It makes a great last-minute gift. They even have couple packs that come with adjoining plots of land in said fiefdom. They plant a tree with every order and work with global charities, 1 tree planted and trees to the future to support global reforestation efforts. My personal favorite reason to do this? You could officially change your name to Lord or Lady, so anything woke will have to address you by your proper title, which will send them into the next dimension, which might be worth it by itself. And you can get on that credit card and you can even put it on your dating profiles. It makes an amazing last-minute gift. Establishment Titles is actually running a massive sale right now. Plus, if you use the code Langley, you get an additional 10% off. So go to establishedtitles.com/Langley to get your gifts now and help support the channel. And thank you so much in advance for checking it out. All right, brothers and sisters, as I mentioned, we have got an opinion piece from the intelligentsia of the left. Jamie Raskin, sitting member of Congress from Maryland, also on the January 6th committee, so no bias there. But enough of the setup. This is the guy that we're talking about, if you recognize his face. Sitting member of Congress from Maryland, 8th District. All right, now let's get into what Jamie has to say, because you know it's got to be good, right? Because he's a sitting member of Congress. Well, let's dive in. The Second Amendment gives no comfort to insurrectionists. This was published today, early this morning, around 5 a.m. Eastern Time. So you can tell right off the title, this is tying the Second Amendment to insurrectionist activity, because clearly it's unconstitutional to have a Second Amendment right because it's being used in a negative manner. That's all air quotes. But let's dive into it because there's a lot of pieces here which don't make sense, like I said, but let's refute this anyway. By Jamie Raskin. Many Republicans in Congress agree with Representative Matt Gaetz that the Second Amendment, quote, is about maintaining within the citizenry the ability to maintain an armed rebellion against the government if that becomes necessary. Please see founding of our nation. The entire principle is that we are an armed populace so we can defend our rights should need be. It's not necessarily about, oh, we're going to go start a rebellion tomorrow, or we're going to start one in 5 weeks. It's not about that. It's about the propensity for defense of our own rights and our own pursuit of happiness, if you will. But let's keep going because Jamie's onto it. Jamie's obviously onto it. This purported right to overthrow the government means that the people must enjoy access to weapons that are wholly unnecessary for hunting or self-defense, such as military-style assault weapons. As Representative Chip Roy, a Republican, argues, the Second Amendment was, quote, designed purposefully to empower the people to resist the force of tyranny used against them. That's actually very well worded. It was designed purposely to empower the people to resist the force of tyranny used against them. So, for example, when natural rights of a citizenry are oppressed by a tyrannical, overwhelming force, that's the whole point. But they're trying to obfuscate the idea that you stand up for your natural rights with the fact that you don't have a right to have a weapon to do so. Just wait till the end when I show you that they need to do it anyway. This is really silly. But let's keep going. I'm going to use silly in place of another word. Some champions of the insurrectionist theory of the Second Amendment seem to glorify violence against public officials. I'm going to pause right there for a second. The insurrectionist theory of Second Amendment. What do you bet that we're going to hear that a whole lot more? Because that sounds really brandable. Sounds like a real quick phrase they can drop in. Let me know in the comments field who thinks that's going to be a new talking point. But anyways, keep going. 2 weeks before the 1/6/21 insurrection overran the U.S. Capitol, Representative Lauren Boebert declared that the Second Amendment, quote, has nothing to do with hunting unless you're talking about hunting tyrants, maybe. Again, she's right. It doesn't have anything to do with hunting. The idea is to defend your naturalized rights against an overwhelming, overbearing, government force. This is the whole point of the Second Amendment, but they're trying to couch it in a different light in order to satisfy their desires. But let's keep going, because here's silly point one. All I just did was lay out the outline. Let's start with this basic reality check. Of more than 900 people charged with crimes tied to January 6th, including smashing windows, assaulting Capitol officers, and conspiring to overthrow or interfere with the government, not a single charge has been dismissed by any federal or state court on the grounds that the Second Amendment or any other part of the Constitution gives them the right to engage in violent insurrection against the government. I don't see how that has anything to do with the Second Amendment. But in order to force a narrative and introduce more different talking points like the insurrectionist theory of the Second Amendment and throw members of Congress under the bus like Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, and Matt Gaetz, this is a hit piece against the Second Amendment and the proponents thereof. But let's continue because 1/6 doesn't have anything to do with it. But we're about to get really great. More seductively, my Republican colleagues invoke the American Revolution and the idea that the Declaration of Independence, after a, quote, long train of abuses and usurpations, aggrieved people have the right to alter or abolish the bonds holding them to a tyrannical government. Kind of like some sort of independence declaration. Something about that whole, we don't want to be part of you anymore. Yeah, okay, let's keep going. See where he's going with this. This is true, of course, but it's perfectly irrelevant. This is the part where he completely argues against himself. The revolutionaries undoubtedly asserted their right as a matter of natural law to overthrow a tyrannical government. Okay, all right, so we're on to something here. But that is completely different from the claim that American Constitution itself, our binding positive law, guarantees a right to overthrow the American government. So what this man is doing, a sitting member of Congress, is trying to tie together Republicans who support the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment itself, with a insurrectionist theory of new branded topic, insurrectionist theory of the Second Amendment, tied to the right to overthrow the government. Somehow, this man just made the jump from the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed to the right to have an insurrection against the government shall not be infringed. There is no link there, but he's trying to draw that bridge. Wait until he completely undermines his own point. Here it comes. We've gone full circle silly. If the American government were to engage in true tyranny, like slaughtering and oppressing the population, we the people would undoubtedly have a right to recite our grievances, proclaim our cause to the world, cut the ties that bind, and engage in the kind of revolutionary struggle that the American colonists did. But it would be meaningless and silly to argue that it is the Constitution that granted us the right to do all that. Okay, so in conclusion here, this guy is actually advocating that the Second Amendment is completely tied to an insurrectionist theory of a Second Amendment, which then is tied to an insurrectionist movement. But at the same time, if we were to need to overthrow a tyrannical population, it's okay because we can do that because we have the arms. But we can't do it within the Constitution because the Constitution prohibits any type of insurrection or rebellion. The circular logic here makes zero sense, Put that into layman's terms. You're saying you shouldn't have the right to the Second Amendment. It basically goes towards an insurrectionist mentality. The Second Amendment, you don't need military-style weapons because those are bad, and that's not good. The well-regulated militia is all about the government regulating the militia. However, if that government steps out of bounds, then it's okay because the guns that I say we shouldn't have because the Constitution prohibits them, then we can take those guns and then step outside the Constitution, but we can't do it within inside the Constitution because, after all, we are legal law-abiding Americans. What? And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.